Okay, I recording this video. It is Sunday, 17th of May 2015. It's coming up to 6:30 p.m. Chicago time, and I hope you're having a good weekend. So, I'm going to do a run through of the global macro charts in this video. But before doing that, just to say the video might look a little bit different because I'm trying to get everything kind of squared away. I decided to upgrade my tech this week, and it didn't go smoothly. And that's why there's not been anything up on the website. And I'll write a piece on the upgrade process because I decided to do everything at the same time. You might know that I use an Apple Mac computer and I run TradeStation and Windows through a thing called Parallels on a Mac, which allows me to kind of emulate Windows software on a Mac environment. Normally it kind of works really well. I've been using a MacBook Pro 17-inch computer for 4 or 5 years now, and finally I had to just upgrade it to something a little bit more kind of modern, and so had to go for a MacBook Pro 15-inch computer. So I've come down in size on the screen, but everything looks a little bit funky now on the screen. So I'm changing some of the resolutions of the videos and some of the look and feel of the charts, and so it's going to look a little bit different. So apologies for that. I will write a kind of a lessons learned from the upgrade process. The one takeaway I would say is the better indicators on TradeStation 9.5 imported into the new version of TradeStation 9.5, no problems. I've been using 9.1 forever and ever. And people have been asking me about upgrading to 9.5 and was there an issue with the better indicators. I had none when I rolled across my easy language files from one version to the other, so that's kind of a good thing. But as I said, I'll write a bigger piece on kind of lesson learned from the upgrade. Anyway, so let's talk about the currencies and gold and silver first, and then get on to the markets, and I'll do the E-mini last because we're kind of in an interesting space. I must admit, with the dollar index and all the currencies, I do actually feel pretty good about the call that I made on this. Over the last couple of months, I started saying that the pound was going to jump. We got a nice jump in the pound, and all the other currencies are going to run with it, and the dollar index was going to weaken. And so this is the reason why we've just run a little bit too far too fast on the dollar index. This is the global macro kind of setup that I like to use on these charts. I just put the daily and the weekly charts together. Normally on the day trading time frames, I've got 3 time frames side by side, but monthly charts, there's such big time frames. They don't really help me as much as the weekly charts. So having daily and weekly together is really a nice kind of setup. And again, better indicators on here. There's no kind of settings to adjust. They all kind of adapt, and everything kind of looks nice. But the reason why we kind of maxed out on the dollar index is we got this. We got exhaustion by blue professional bars. That's a pro signal exit on the weekly chart, and we reached 100, which was kind of big round number on the dollar index. And on the daily chart, you can see we ran into pullback to end of trend. All these blue professional bars at these highs coming into 100, blow off kind of steam here with exhaustion patterns, and that was the top for the time being. Now what we're doing is we're coming off that strength down to cyclical support on the weekly time frame. Now this is going to be a consistent message, and I'm just going to turn this on. This is better sine wave on this weekly chart. Where this move back down, this retracement back down in the dollar index ends, and the strength that we're having in all the other currencies at the moment ends, will be when we have cyclical crosses and support confirmed on the weekly time frame. So we're running down on dollar index, and you can see we've got some time before better sine wave loops around, comes in here and crosses over, and says timing wise we're about right for a cyclical support in dollar index from which we'll kind of bounce. And you can put on the same, just put on your better sine wave on the weekly charts on all the other currencies, and you'll be looking for weekly resistance on those other time frames. When all of those start to line up together, that's when the dollar index will kind of, this decline will kind of find some support and rally back, and we'll have an end in this move. But for the time being, it's game on. This is still in play. We've got some time to run here. So we broke out of this kind of big blue professional bar. I'll say kind of spiky big blue professional bars are important. We tested the high of that, got rejected at resistance. We didn't even run through the resistance. We just bounced straight off it, which showed the market was weak. It was second cyclical turn after end of trend with an exhaustion pattern there, and kind of users of better indicators should know that that's an important kind of timing point when we get exhaustion on the end of trend. Wait for this one, and that's the fall off that we've had. And now on the daily chart, we've fallen through a support here. This kind of 94, 95 level was kind of important. We've dropped through support there, having had some weak amateur up bars here, bang, bang. And so, we're in a little bit of a downtrend on the daily chart. So, dollar index has kind of come off, and the pound was the nicest one that kind of set up really, really nicely. And I was talking about how this was a fake out move down here to 46, down at the bottom. So these are the inverse. The pound will be the inverse, and the euro and all those currencies will be the inverse of the dollar index. And what we've had is pullback to dirty end of trend, with blue professional down bar kind of down here, flush patterns going on, and then bang, this thing kind of set off. And I said the breakthrough 150 would be confirmation that we were going to run up in the British pound. We had a nice move through there, and then we had this little bit of uncertainty here with a little bit of a fallback, and I said we'd had that blue professional bars just taking profits at this point here after cyclical resistance kind of comes in, but we'd had a little bit of weakness from there, but not much, and we'd eventually kind of bust through, and that's bang what we had. Blue professional bar through resistance, that's jumping the creek. And all of this was happening around the UK election time, the little bit of uncertainty there, what was going to happen. And as soon as the Conservatives got in, bang, raced away to the new highs from 158 on the futures there. Blue professional bars kind of coming in. It's run pretty hard in terms of volume and exhaustion and so on, and I'm looking for that cyclical resistance. But all of those currencies will kind of will tend to move together. So look for those cyclical turning points on all the currencies kind of starting to blend together. So just because one might be early in terms of a cyclical cross here on the weekly chart, I would wait for all of them to start to come into play, just not one or two. Euro has done exactly the same thing, but you see the drop off in the euro has been absolutely massive. Up here, it topped out 140, pullback end of trend on the weekly chart, and in this huge downtrend move here. And again on the daily chart, all these blue professional bars coming at lows, pullback to end of trend, bang, and we've kind of moved off into an uptrend. So just like dollar index falling off, the pound is rallying, the euro is rallying, and this is short covering. Rally kind of volume kind of blasting through here. Everybody who is short all of a sudden getting kind of out of their positions causes a surge in kind of volume, and we're breaking above resistance here. So it's got to run a little bit of time. Again, weekly crosses is what I'm looking for as the place where this starts to reverse and goes the other way. So that's the euro chart. Now, a week ago or so, probably the beginning of this week, maybe it was the end of last week, I started talking about the yen. Just like I was super early on the pound, in terms of saying there's something kind of coming up, we're going to have a reversal in the pound. I do think we're going to have a reversal in the yen. We've been caught in this kind of low 80s kind of down here in the Japanese yen, and it's just itching. I mean, it's just done nothing for months. We're itching to break into some kind of move. Difficult to know with the yen. The yen, it's a carry trade, just like the US dollar is effectively, kind of a funding currency. So it doesn't operate as much as kind of a risk-on type currency like the Aussie dollar or the Canadian or the euro or something like that. So I don't know. We've had these blue professional bars coming at the highs rather than the lows. But we've also had amateur bars, Rambo down here and amateur down bar here. So the amateurs kind of getting wrong-footed here. We're back into this kind of blue professional zone here, between kind of 82.5 and 84.5. So let's see. I'm looking for something to kind of bust out of this in terms of the yen kind of strengthening. But that'll be a play against the Japanese central bank, and they'll do everything in their power in order to kind of knock the yen down. So let's see. I'm looking for that, a break above 84, 84 and a half here out of this channel into something could be interesting. So let's see if we kind of get that. But I've been kind of a little bit guessing this is going to happen too early, and it's not happened yet. So that's the yen. Aussie Aussie, nice little run to the upside. Again, same thing, we're in a downtrend. We've got to find that cyclical resistance at some point before the Aussie kind of goes the other way. This exhaustion buy volume here, after our kind of bottoming activity, exhaustion, pullback, end of trend, and so on, that's a bit of short covering rally. We're kind of back up into the low 80s at the moment. So again, it's going to kind of travel the same way. The Canadian dollar has been a little bit stronger. The pattern here is pretty beautiful. You know, pullback, end of trend, dirty end of trend on the daily chart here. Exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, blue professional down bars at the lows there. There's that exhaustion volume here getting this move going. That short covering rally type stuff. So we're in a little bit of an uptrend on the daily chart. So all I say is just look at all of those currencies together. They'll all move kind of in sync. Some will signal these cyclical turns and patterns a little bit earlier than others, but just wait for those all to kind of come together before this move in the dollar index and all the currencies is over. Because the dollar index is weakening, the gold and silver, the precious metals, are starting to strengthen. And finally, this has been a funny road. The bottoming in gold has taken a long time. This is the important thing. All these blue professional down bars here at 1100 with exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence. Bullish divergence right on the zero line, so wait for something a little bit deeper. Didn't come with a flush pattern, but that's kind of flushing out type volume. It's not as extreme as the exhaustion volume, but kind of makes a nice kind of bullish divergence pattern there. So that is the setup on the weekly chart for some kind of strength in gold, and then a little bit of a U-turn pattern here, and then we tested it down again here into 1180, and then blue professional bar kind of getting this thing going. A little bit of short covering volume kind of going on here, and we've got cyclical support on the weekly chart. So it looks like we're setting up ready for a little bit of a rush to kind of go the other side, which will be interesting. So some strength in gold. The pattern in silver, same kind of thing. You're down here at 16, all these blue professional bars kind of down here at the lows. All of this blue professional bars kind of here. And then we kind of set off to the upside. It's taken a long time to digest these lows, but that's what makes a good trend reversal. Is everybody kind of jumping into these kind of reversals way too early. This was way too early here. Exhaustion buy, blue professional bars at the highs. The professionals kind of getting out there saying that's a little bit too early, but then they got in on the lows on these blue professional down bars kind of down here. So now we look like we're setting up for a little bit of strength, and let's see, getting through this high will be kind of the critical pattern going forward. But because dollar index is continuing to weaken, we'll get some strength in gold and silver. So currencies and gold, precious metals, and crude. So crude also kind of acts kind of counter to the US dollar. So weakness in US dollar would mean some strength in crude. Same thing, blue professional bars at the bottom, bullish divergence comes in, pullback to end of trend on the daily chart here, Rambo pattern right there at the lows. Rambo in exhaustion, that's always unstable. It's too many amateurs kind of, and that was all the stories, when we were down at 45 bucks, people saying it's going to 20, and they got kind of wrong-footed, and then we had a little bit of a break above resistance here into a bit of a trending move. So let's see, that was a blue professional down bar the other day here, and we've come back into that zone, breaking above the high of that one, kind of, so what is that, 62 and a quarter, breaking above the high of that one will kind of get this thing going to the upside. We're already in an uptrend, but where this goes, again, cyclical resistance on the weekly chart is going to be kind of key to this. So let me just switch that on for you there. So it looks like it's kind of coming soon, but we've got to wait and see. Breakdown levels are going to be important. So we just wait and see. When all of that kind of goes together with the currencies kind of all kind of signaling together, that's going to be when this whole complex is going to kind of reverse and start to move the other way. But for the time being, I still think we're having some strength in crude. Copper, kind of a bit of fugly chart here. Exhaustion sell, which ended up being kind of a flush pattern down here. We've had this kind of strength. V reversals like this will always come back and test. We're coming back up, bouncing potentially off support here, but it's going to be doing the same type of thing as crude in the other charts. So it's ugly the way it's just kind of bursting up here, but we're kind of running stops each time it kind of does this, comes back into that zone kind of bounces off ramp patterns, kind of gets going. So yeah, it's not a prettiest chart on the copper there, but I think it's going to be mirroring the type of activity in crude. Bonds. Now bonds. So everybody's in a rush to call the top in the bond market, and that's been a futile exercise over the last 30 years. So this thing just keeps on breaking up to new highs. We kind of came off from this level in bonds. The 10-year, the 5-year look similar. I tend to look at the 30-year. This is at US, which is the symbol on TradeStation for this. We kind of backed off. It was a bearish divergence where we topped out here on the weekly chart. Again, cyclical support on the weekly chart is going to be kind of key. We're in a downtrend on the daily chart here, and we've just found support with blue professional bars down here at 152. This got to come back and make pullback to end of trend before that kind of runs its course, and I think that cyclical support kind of comes in. So we've bounced up off that for the time being, but we've still got to come back and find that support on the daily chart, and then run this, pull back to end of trend on the weekly chart. So a little bit of resistance here, sorry, a little bit of a weakness after this kind of strong move at the end of last year. And we found some support blue professional bars here, but this has got to run its course, pull back to end of trend on the daily chart there. And what have we got last? Well, of course, the E-mini. E-mini on the weekly chart, and we've just been in this real tight kind of congestion zone for the last 3 months, where we're just batting backwards and forwards between 2100 and above, and kind of 2000 and above, kind of down here. But market does not like flat tops, and we've just kind of been itching above this resistance on the weekly chart. I think we're going to continue higher. I don't know. I think there's going to be a little bit of weakness, in the shorter term, because Friday we've got to play out the move on Friday. I've got the 40,000 tip-bar chart. Yeah, here we go. So this is Friday's activity here. Thursday into Friday. So we bottomed out with exhaustion sell. Wasn't a nice kind of end of trend, pull back to end of trend pattern on these lows. It was just kind of spiky lows with exhaustion patterns. Bullish divergence comes in on the 0 line, so wait for the flush. The flush kind of comes in, bang, and that was the set off into that move Thursday into Friday, which was a nice kind of trending move. The Thursday was really strong. Now Friday we've just been kind of digesting there after exhaustion, and we've got blue professional bars the highs. I don't know, this levels is absolutely key. So what are we talking about? 2123 as resistance. If we blast through there again, this will take us into confirmed uptrends breaking above resistance on the weekly charts, and that could be a big move. But we've got to we've potentially got to put in bearish divergence and digest this, and maybe that's we're going to come back from there. Not convinced kind of either way. We're in an uptrend because of all of this activity, and all that's shown us is the first kind of sign of a little bit of blow off activity. I'm going to wait and see where the bearish divergence kind of comes in, and whether we actually have a run through this 2123 into an uptrend on this time frame chart, because then it takes us above resistance on all these time frames. Market doesn't like flat tops, so it's going to spike above there in some fashion before this kind of is all over. So not so sure on the E-mini at the moment. Everybody wants a crack. Everybody wants a little bit of a market sell-off in the E-mini, which is the reason why it's not going to happen, because there'll be a lot of people kind of caught wrong-footed there. Anyway, so there we go, a little bit of a run through the global macro charts. Probably this video's run a little bit long. Let's see what it looks like on the website, and I hope your trading is going well.